Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Hello and welcome to another Countryside podcast here on Manx Radio with Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. And interesting diversification for Chrissy Cannell. You spoke to her, Kiri, a bit of trepidation or enthusiasm?
She's a lot of enthusiasm, but coming from the community farm, she wants to take up the reins and learn some of the knowledge from her father, John, at Ballachannan. And I think it's a great move.
Yeah, because it must be a bit of contrast dealing with the public and everything, keeping that community farm in order, and then the sort of different responsibility of, I suppose, if I put not sort of ruining things that have been, brought onto a farm over many years.
That's it. The knowledge that can be passed down while John's still up and fit and running, and yeah, it's priceless, that information. And it gets passed on again from Chrissy onto her family possibly in the future. And I think, yeah, great idea. Yeah,
and also fishing. I know you're not a big fisher woman, are you?
No, I sound like one a lot of the time, but no, hopeless. But the new app will certainly help the anglers in the fishing associations.
Yeah, and the new app, which of course is available for people who don't know what apps are, they're applications, it's short for, which go on phones, because just about everybody has got a mobile phone, and this will suit any type of phone. And what it can do is not just take the pictures like you can of the fish, before you put them back or whatever you're doing with them, or the biggest one you've caught or something like that. But you can also, with this app, put information on about the location of where you caught them, the size of the fish, the type, the weather information, which also is important, and how many maybe you caught or have seen in that area. But that information is confidential. It only goes to the DEFRA for data, which can only help the things in the future, can't it?
It keeps the stocks right, and it can improve in certain areas where there might not be as many fish, or the different breeds that you need to improve. But yeah, I think it's a great idea.
And you were also a guest at the National Farmers Union evening, where they had a special speaker.
Yeah, raising awareness on these farms for health and safety. It seems to be a big push nowadays, and especially with so many big machinery and tall sheds and things. It's vital that we keep the younger generations informed of these issues.
Yeah, and the guest speaker, she's got a lot of experience by the sound of it, and by her title.
This is it. It's a very important role, obviously, within agriculture, but Stephanie had a lot of information for us, and hopefully we'll take it on board.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, we're in the flow, so to speak, of the river fishing season and the reservoir fishing season here on the Isle of Man. And there's been some new technology to help not just the anglers with their catches and finding out where they caught fish and how big they were. It also helps the Isle of Man government, as the Inland Fisheries Manager Jan Gledhill told me.
It's an application that can be used on a smartphone or an iPad or something like that, and what it's enabling the anglers to do is to record their catches, which is good for the angler. Lots of anglers like to take photographs on their smartphones already to record the fish that they've caught, but it's got the added benefit that it's going to provide us with information about what fish are being caught and where, and the size of fish, which from a management point of view, especially for managing the rivers and the fisheries within the rivers, it's really valuable information.
Is this available on all types of the modern phones, is it?
Yes, it's available on Android and on Apple as well. It will work on both phones, so you can download it from either of those main stores, and it's free, which is a great thing. Yeah,
that will encourage a lot of people. Yeah. I mean, how has it been taken by the anglers?
We're starting to get more people using it. We've had some of our very keen anglers have been using it more and more, and we've had some very good feedback from them as well, and some helpful comments which we've made some adjustments to it early on, and we'll continue to do that in response to the feedback. So at the moment, where we get people asking questions, we're trying to answer those on our we've got a DEFRA Fisheries Facebook page, so if there's any questions that people have, we can answer them there for them.
So what sort of things can they put on on? I mean, not just the pictures, obviously, of the fish, which lots of you say that there's a lot of different areas. Simple to use, though?
Yeah, it's very quick to use, very quick to download, and very simple to use. And it's really up to the angler the extent of the information that they record. Within the app, there are basic fields that you need to fill in, and that's just the river that it was caught in, or the reservoir, if it's a reservoir fish, the species of fish, an estimate of the length. We don't expect anglers to go and measure every single fish to the nearest
millimetre. A lot of them will.
A lot of them will, which is great, but a lot of people then, if they're returning a fish, most anglers would have some way in their equipment or maybe their hand span of estimating the length of the fish, and then they'll put that back, and that's good enough. So really what we're looking for is the real information that used to be on the paper catch return form, or still is on the paper catch return form, about the species and the length and where it was caught and the date that it was caught and whether it's returned or not. That's the important information for us. But then the angler can upload a photo, they can record more information about the type of angling that they were using, whether using fly or spinning rod. They can put any other information they want in the sort of additional information box. Some anglers are sometimes interested in the weather that it was like, so it's up to them what they record. So it's good for them, it's good for us as well.
These apps, though, they can be used in other areas, I suppose, too, can they?
They can, yes. I mean, the EcoSaucer app that we're using is actually designed by a local company, Fuzzy Logic Solutions, and the main purpose of the app is to gather information from the general public on environmental things, so it could theoretically be used to gather information about where people have seen wildflowers or bees or anything. Within that app, there are different campaigns, and so we've got this fisheries campaign. You just click on that, and it takes you through to the Manx Fisheries, Inland Fisheries app. But it's a lot of potential there for other use as well.
Is there a worry from some of the anglers, though, that they'll put down that they caught 5 big 20-pound trout in a certain area? Would they be reluctant to put it on, thinking that other anglers could get there and they could swamp the place at their best spot?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly would be a concern if that was the case. But as it is, the only information that goes on there is the information that they put on. So to begin with, DEFRA Fisheries can only see the information that they put on, but no other anglers can see that information. So the information that they add is only visible to them and to DEFRA, and we only have information about their location in what they put on. So if they just put the River Doo, that's all we know. So they're protected from that point of view.
Are you and the anglers quite pleased with the way it's been received so far?
I'm pleased with how it's been received, and just really encourage more people to use it. You know, we've got a number of anglers using it at the moment, and we'd like to see more. It's early days yet, so and we're very happy to receive feedback as well.
The Inland Fisheries Manager, Jan Gledhill, talking about the new app for the fishing, and it's nice that they've got a little bit of technology, I suppose, to play with, but you know, I suppose some of them go out there for the fishing, maybe to get away from it all, but certainly if it helps them plan the stocking and everything off the Isle of Man reservoirs and rivers, it's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
It's a great tool to, like you say, to stock the rivers and hopefully increase some of the numbers in certain areas where there might not be as many fish that, or different types of fish that they need to have there.
Yeah, because sometimes sort of mention about there with particularly with the salmon, where they come up, climb up the river, don't they? And sometimes there may be some inaccessible places, but sometimes they may think, there hasn't been any salmon or anything there, what's been happening? And sometimes there can be landslides where, they can't get up, it's too high, or things like that. So I suppose it's useful, that. And plus, the great thing about it is that people can't see all the information on it. So if you go out and think, this is a good spot for fishing, you can put your information on the app thing, and it all goes to government, but nobody else can do it. You can still share your pictures of them with Facebook's ones that are that big, which you can see my arm. But it's nice, and I must admit, I did do a little bit of fishing when I was younger, but I haven't got the time now. But it's something quite like to take up again.
Lots of young people are involved with fishing, and they take it up as a hobby, and they're out most Saturdays, and it's a great thing, especially with modern technology. It could keep younger people encouraged.
Yeah, have you had a stab at it yourself?
No, I'm hopeless at fishing. I've never really caught anything, but I do admire the people who have the patience that go out and do it in all weathers.
They certainly do. I did get a hooking my finger once while I was doing the fish, but they're only little small hooks, so it's worse on the boat when you're out in the sea fishing, because when you get tangled up in there, it's a bit restrictive. But I suppose health and safety get involved in it now. But you had an event that involved safety, weren't you?
Yeah, health and safety seems to be quite an important thing now with farming and Fable Farm Assurance. It has to be all above board. And I went along to an event organised by the NFU Mutual, raising awareness of staying safe on the Manx farms. And I spoke to guest speaker Stephanie Barclay. So, Stephanie, farming has the poorest safety record out of all the jobs in the UK. Is this correct?
Unfortunately, it is correct, and it doesn't seem to have changed over the last 5 or 6 years. You're 6 times more likely to be killed on a farm than you are on a construction site.
That's a really, really high number.
Yeah, it's unacceptable, it really is. And that's just for the volume of people in the industry compared to the construction industry. Obviously, they're very, very different. Your construction site is usually contained, you're legally bound to have a foreman. Mm-hmm. It's not the case in farming. People are challenged more than they have been over the years. And also, your site could be hundreds of acres, so it's not contained. And you don't live on a construction site, you live on the farm. So there are lots of different reasons, but still no, it's something that we're looking to address, and it's something we're trying to get the next generation of farmers to really start to bring in as good practice.
So the NFU Mutual has organised this foundation. Is this something you've been part of for a while now?
Yes, it is. I've been part of it since year 2. It was established in 2014 as an independent charity. The NFU Mutual decided that it was really important that they start to support the next generation of farmers as a mutual insurance company. It's something that's part and parcel of who they are as an organisation. So they thought they'd put their money where their mouth is and really just establish a charity to go out there independently and to engage with those young farmers, to give them training, to give them support, to raise awareness of farm safety, and to get them to challenge what they're doing and to change their behaviours going forward.
So these are young people coming into the industry. You've looked for the younger, what age group is it, 18?
It's actually 16 to 40, which is a European definition of young farmer. And I know a young farmer nowadays could be 75 years old, really,
This is it.
Given the fact that you're a farmer for life. But these are the next generation that are members of their young farmers clubs that are going to do it as a career through their colleges, or that are pursuing a vocational route into the industry, that are just learning from their parents. Just means that we're there and we're giving them the training, we're giving them the knowledge that they can confidently challenge and look for hazards before they happen.
So you're looking for machinery or livestock, or is it just everyday dangers around the farm?
Well, we usually cover, there's 8 main themes. They are livestock, which brings in crushes and it brings in slurry. We have machinery that have PTO, that are telehandlers, with even chainsaws. We look at overhead power lines. There are a lot of different, we give each college that decides to do the training, we give them 8 choices. So we give them a list of 8 scenarios. They choose the 4 that are most relevant to their students in that area. It just means that the course is translatable from Scotland right down to Cornwall, obviously from the Isle of Man over to Northern Ireland as well. So we're covering the whole of the UK with this. We've done 19 colleges in a year for about 1,500 students. We have another 11 on the list to do before the end of the year. And I've unfortunately got 12 on a reserve list that I simply just don't have the resources to do yet. But I really want to be in a position that I'm not saying no to anybody.
And do you find that the machinery is getting so big now and there's so much horsepower, livestock, or maybe you're a one-man band and you're on your own working with it? Is it just the way that agriculture is developed that it's a little bit more dangerous now? Or
I think the dangers have always been there.
Right.
The challenges that the industry face, because I'm sure farms that maybe had 6, 7 people on them years ago maybe only have 1 or 2 now. So they're working longer hours. They've less resources. They've less people to help them. They're not getting the money that they should be getting for what they're producing. So there are those challenges there, and these people are probably at the back of their mind knowing all of this, being tired, being strained and stressed. And the beauty of young farmers clubs are that support network is there. The people that they make friends with at club level are people that are going to be friends with them for life, and they're the people that will be able to support them through the good and the bad as well. So we're trying to make sure that they know that maybe the machinery that's coming out now with good safety features, they might be able to afford that for another 6 or 7 years, because they're using the stuff that maybe doesn't have a PTO cutoff button at the back, so that they know what to do with the machinery that they're given and how to make that as safe as possible.
So you're going into colleges and doing courses. Is this something you'd like to do on the Isle of Man?
Absolutely. I've already spoken to the Manx Young Farmers Club, who were first off up to meet me after the talk today, and I will be delighted to support them, because it's what we're set up to do. And they're keen to have this. There is an appetite out there. Young farmers are talking about farm safety now. They're talking about risks. Unfortunately, they're still taking risks. That's something we just need to start to address. We need to stigmatise it. It's not cool. It's not a badge of honour to have 4 fingers on one hand. You know, I come from a background where I'm from Donegal in Ireland, where most of my friends were either farmers or fishermen. And they're equally dangerous occupations. So I know families who have lost loved ones. I know families who have been affected by accidents at work. And it's not something that I'm willing to laugh off anymore. I want to do something about it.
But you're having great success, so this is your second year, and already the figures seem to be coming down.
Well, yes, I can't honestly say that it's anything to do with what we're doing. And hopefully they're not getting worse.
No.
And I don't want them to get worse. I mean, I sit and I look at the claims that NFU Mutual have and the number of employers' liability claims that they have, and they seem to be showing a good progression in terms of the health and safety executive end of year, the fatalities, and I hate calling them statistics, because these are people's families. These are real people. You know, they're not just statistics. You know, they're farmers and their communities and their families that have been affected by this. So I want to get to the point where there aren't any, you know, accidents so then they don't need someone like this, and I just need to go and find a new job.
But it's a great title that you've got on your work, and the Farm Safety Foundation, who will fill your boots. You know, it hits home straight away.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about the farmers that we're targeting. These young farmers are invincible, as I was at their age, you know, but it's thinking about their families, their friends, the people that would be affected if they were to see the accident happening, to have to deal with it in the aftermath, and support them for the rest of their lives if they have a life-changing accident. So the beauty of this is that we're talking about everybody that would be affected. And you know, it's hard to fill somebody's boots, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get them to think about not just themselves, but everybody else around them.
Farm Safety Foundation consultant Stephanie Barclay.
Sounded a very interesting evening, Kerry.
Yeah, it's very important nowadays, isn't it? With all the big machinery that's around these farms and big tall buildings and sheds and all the rest of it. Yeah, it's keeping the awareness there, and for the younger generations in particular.
I must admit, some of the tractors and things seem a little bit more roadworthy than they used to be.
This is it, more doors and cabs nowadays.
Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I suppose with me being a couple of years older than you, I remember the days when the law came in about, you know, because our tractors never had cabs or nothing on them, and they had to be fitted with the rollover protection bars on them to start with. But then, of course, it seemed a pointless thing at the time because there was no seatbelts in them. So, but you know, it was a proven thing that it helped. So things have gone, I'm glad to say, a long way since the early days. But some will argue that you never went near belts on elevators and things because you knew you could. So
that's it. And the speeds that some of these tractors are putting out now, your PTO, the power of these machines is unbelievable. So it's so vital to have the guards in place now. And you never know who wanders onto the farms either. And a lot of the time, you might be busy doing something else and your back's turned and something unaware.
You've got to be very careful.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Also, you've been talking to Chrissy Cannell, who last time I spoke to was in one of the concerts at Kirkmichael Village and also at the community farm. But she's gone for a bit of a change, has she now?
Yes, she's gone back to her roots. She's gone home to Bollocanan to take up the reins of their home farm, along with her father, John. So I went along to find out more.
John Cannell, ready for change. I'm sure there'll be a few interesting comments about that. I know he'd been semi-retired, I guess would be the official term, for a few years before I made my announcement almost 2 years ago now that I wanted to take over the farm eventually and learn what I could from him. And then he's got a spring in his step. He's out working most days. He's teaching me everything that he knows, his thought processes. We're making decisions together, and change will come in time.
You've been down to the mart, you've bought some sheep and some tups.
Yeah, and a tractor and a dog.
So yeah, small steps in, but big life change for you, Chrissy. In the future, you obviously need to develop the yard into a more up-to-date work. And any ideas?
Well, I think as a dad for many years didn't know what the future of the farm was, kind of things, priorities changed, and now that I'm back in it and we're growing the business from pretty small to hopefully something pretty cool in the next few years. There's infrastructure and equipment and more livestock and big projects that need to happen. Yeah, it's a challenge, but it's a good one, and I think it's great to be able to work on the land.
People struggle to get into agriculture now. They don't own their own farms, but to have the opportunity to come back, and you're the first female out of a very long line of Cannells to take over.
I mean, the farm goes back, Dad would say 600 years on paper, so who knows actually how long. I've often said that there's no denying who you are or how you're bred.
So you've been down the mart, you've been buying the livestock. Have you enjoyed it so far?
Oh yeah, there's so much to learn. Dad would say that every day he's learning something. So after 60 odd years, he's still learning. So I've got a heck of a lot to learn. But it's great fun being able to have the opportunity to keep learning. And there's going to be new technology and places to go and visit with new technology to learn what's going on in different places over the world. So it's a good challenge.
But even to learn the lay of the land, it's a lot of the fields aren't flat. There's a lot of drainage, and I see you've been working with Dad to try and get the house field sorted out. You best part of 2 years trying to get it sorted, and now it is finally.
Almost. But that's the thing about the land and working outdoors and the countryside is it doesn't just happen overnight, and you've got to put in the legwork and the effort to get reward. And I think that's something that working at the Children's Centre's community farm taught me, I guess is the word. Because nothing there happened quickly, and that was a whole part of the enjoyment of going to that farm and what other people got out of it as well, is that it's not just about an instant fix. No. Things take time, it's worth putting in the effort.
And this year you've been doing a bit of ploughing as well?
Well, last year I ploughed my first full field, and then Dad's just started the ploughing and he's left me a little patch to do this year, so we'll see how that goes.
Contribution.
Yeah.
But it's putting your swing onto things now, and hopefully bringing your energy, because obviously you're very enthusiastic. You've developed the community farm. You've moved on to that to do your home farm. It will be nice in the next 5 years. There'll be lots of ambition, I imagine, with you.
Yeah, most of the time, although I'm sure everyone at some point suddenly thinks, oh no, what am I doing? And doubts. But if you didn't have that, you wouldn't want to keep learning and improving and developing and trying new things. So
you're ready for the challenge then?
Most days, even in the rain.
But you never did attend the Young Farmers Clubs at all?
No, I think growing up with 3 older sisters, my mum never wanted us marrying farmers, and I think when I suddenly announced, hey mum, yeah, I'm going to take over the farm, I think she was a bit shocked there for a while.
It's predominantly a sheep hill farm here, but there is some idea of getting some cows?
Yeah, I'd love to get some cattle this summer, just a handful to start with, because I need to learn from Dad. Whilst he's still fit and able and can teach me what's going, how to look after them and what's going on with them. Because by the time I was starting to pay attention to animals on the farm, Dad had been out of cattle for a wee while then, so I've only really had sheep to play with. So
yeah, that's going to be a real learning curve for the two of you getting back into the cattle.
I know, but it'll be fun, I bet.
But it's the equipment and everything that comes with livestock, not just sheep, but cattle, bigger handling systems and a lot of safety and issues now. And
that's why last year was the first time I went to the Royal Highland Show as a farmer in training, and it was so cool seeing all the new fancy sheep handling equipment, the cattle crushers, the hydraulically driven sheep pens and all sorts of stuff like this. And thinking for the future, oh, that could be good and that could be good. It'd be great to have a go with that.
So at the minute, it's a part-time job at home, looking after the sheep. Hopefully one day it'll be full-time, maybe?
Yeah, one day in the future. I'm not quite sure when that'll be. Not quite sure when Dad will be ready for that. But I think it's good to have something else going on in the background as well. Helps to bring in some extra pennies. Gives me a little bit more independence. Means me and Dad aren't together all the time.
So future plans, 5 years, hopefully be back at the farm full-time, long-term?
Well, at some point I'll be turfing Mum and Dad out of the house and moving into there, because the farmer's got to live in the farmhouse.
I think that could be a very hard task.
Often have a little joke about that. At some point that will happen. I don't know when. It just depends how things go in the next few years, really.
Chrissy Cannell talking about what's happening at home on the farm at Ballachannan.
And it'll be a strange one in a way, with, I suppose, the responsibility. Although there would be quite a lot of responsibility with all the public that was visiting the community farm, But to have the responsibility of having to look after the farm and under the watchful eye of her dad, John, I would imagine as well.
That's it. But picking up the knowledge from a father there, that's priceless. And being able to have him guide her through the early years of the farm itself, I think it'll be really great for her.
And that's something that I suppose people who maybe come into farming at a later time in life, that have retired or something like that, the difference between people passing knowledge, particularly of farms, I always remember that the people around the north, where I lived, the same people had them farms for years.
Oh, yes.
And they always used to talk about, we never plant potatoes in that field, or such and such. As always something about one field or another, wouldn't there? Well,
that's it. And the farm itself, it probably have drier areas or wetter areas, and an earlier part of the farm that grows. And it's all the rotation that Chrissy will learn from her father, and it's important that, where all the drains are and all that kind of things are really still important to these hill farms.
I think one of the last times I was talking to her, she was on the digger. She was learning that about doing the drains.
Goodness me!
So I don't know how it ever ended up. I haven't seen any water sitting on the land, so it couldn't have gone that bad.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
There we are. Another countryside finished with fishing apps, safety on farms, and also diversification from one type of farm to another with Chrissy Cannell, wasn't it?
Very much so. It's hard to change from a public farm to your own farm, but having the freedom to progress something and the sense of achievement you can get from having your own business, I think she'll really enjoy that.
And it was strange sort of growing up on our farm, where we had hundreds of sheep years ago, when my dad was going, and then years later where things have changed, and we got the scramble course out of Ballygarrigan in the early 70s, which was just a gift, really, in a way, in its day. But of course, everything's ran by, it costs money now, doesn't it? And
it does.
And of course, we have the airsoft club and various bits and pieces on the land now. So it's nice to see that it can get used for other things, because some of the land isn't that great near the sea. But
still in
a lot
good
of
use.
different things for the future. But that's all for this week's Countryside. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.